Hello, this is Els coming to you from Beamish Crafty Corner, and today I want to show you how to make a very simple card, and I mean over-the-top simple. Um, there are a lot of people that you might want to make a card for. There's a lot of occasions, maybe you forget a friend's birthday or something like that, and you just maybe want to send a letter, get well to a friend or something like that, and you're like, I don't want to go to the store just to buy a card, and I really want it to mean something. So I'm going to show you how to make a very simple card today with a few simple things that I know just about all of us have. So I'm going to go ahead and get the supplies together, and I'll be right back. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the basic supplies we're going to want for this one, okay? So let's start with double-sided tape or a tape roller and your glue, either one, whichever works for you, all right? Bone folder and a scoring tool would be helpful here, as would a pair of scissors. And then you're going to want an ink dauber, and you're going to want two colors of ink that coordinate together, preferably one within the same tone. So you want like blue and blue, but you want it to be like blue and a shade lighter of blue. And I'll give you a better example of that when we actually work on this. You're going to want a dauber that's going to match at least one of those colors. A corner rounder. Twine, string, ribbon, something like that. You could use washi tape, maybe some gems, just some things to decorate a little bit. A nice abstract stamp. A scoreboard. This is painter's tape, okay? It's called Scotch Blue. This is from Scotch. There's a couple of different brands of this, but this is what's called low-tack tape. It's not very, very sticky, and it's designed to come off. We're going to actually get rid of even more of the sticky on it. And then you're going to want two pieces of cardstock, one in the color that matches your inks, and then a white piece of cardstock. And then you are either going to want a stamp that stamps whatever your sentiment is, or you can pre-print it on a piece of cardstock and just remove it from here. So I'm going to go ahead and we are going to get started with the basics here, and I will be right back to show you how we're going to get this started, okay? Okay, so for the first part, we're going to take our cutter and we're going to take our 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Now, a standard card is 4¼ inches by 5.5 inches. So basically, we're just going to cut this in half. So I'm going to put this in here at the 5.5 mark. We'll go ahead and cut that. And we're done with this for the moment. We're going to use it again, but we're done with it for now. And these are going to become our card bases. We're going to make 2 cards today, okay? So we're going to take our cards and we are going to put them in our scoreboard, and we're going to score them at 4¼ because that's halfway to the 8.5. And let me do the other one real quick. And then we're done with this, so we'll get rid of that. And then we're going to fold these in half with the divot side out, okay? So we're going to fold them in half, and we're going to be really careful here when we put these together that they line up edge to edge, corner to corner. And then we're going to go ahead and just run our bone folder along that crease. There's one, and we'll do the other one as well. Again, lining it up corner to corner, edge to edge. We want this all nice and even. And then I'll just go over that with my bone folder. And now I have 2 cards, okay? So now that I have my 2 cards, we're going to go ahead and get started with the rest of what we're going to be doing for these, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get a few things out, get ready to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to be building mats in this card. So we're going to take a piece of plain white cardstock. Now this is textured cardstock, so we're going to use this. And what we're going to do is, our card is 4¼ by 5.5. So we're going to cut a piece that's 4 inches by 5¼ So let me go ahead and line this up at 5¼ here. Okay, and we'll do that again because we're going to need 2 for each card. Okay. And then we're going to do this at 4 inches. We're going to do it again at 4 inches. We're going to cut 4 of these, okay? Now you could cut this down after, but if you wanted to use a different design on each one, you would need to do them separately. So I'm going to show you how to do them separately, okay? So that's pretty much all of our waste right there. Just a couple of strips, no big deal. We'll get rid of the cutter. And then we're going to take our 4 mat pieces. And remember, we are going to have one on the front and then one on the inside as well. So 2 for each card. So let's go ahead and start on the first one. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of separate these a little bit. We're going to bring our ink in. All right, for anybody who's keeping score, I'm using a retired Stamp Up color here. This is a Stampin' Up! Bliss Blue. It's an older Stampin' Up! Color. And this one is Ranger's Archival ink in Bluebird. So we're going to get those open. And then I'm going to bring in my stamps. Now remember, again, I chose these Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo stamps because of the just random pattern here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick which one goes in which ink color, okay? And I'm going to like this one here, and I'm just going to put this one here. It doesn't really matter. Now, the one that's going to be on the front of the card is the one that we're concerned with. The other one, we're going to leave totally blank. We're going to put it aside for the moment, okay? We'll get to that. So this one we're going to be using on the front of our card. So that's where we're going to bring in our blue tape. And we're going to take a piece off of here that's longer than the piece that we need. And then we're just going to kind of tap this on the back of our hand. We're trying to get rid of a little bit of the excess goo, okay? And you're going to find the spot that you like. Now you can use your cutting board if you want with this, if you want to make sure that it's straight. Or you can just eyeball it. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to wrap this around the back, both sides. And then I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to leave it right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our rubber stamps. We're going to ink those up till we get a fair amount of ink. And then we're just going to randomly stamp. We're going to stamp on the tape. We're going to stamp on the outside paper. Doesn't matter. We're just going to stamp here, okay? Now, when you stamp, don't just stamp it down and leave it, and pick it up. Stamp it down, hold it with some good pressure, count to 3, and pick it up. All right? We're going to turn the ink pad. We're going to move it completely. Ink it up again. And we're just going to do this about 5-6 times on here, just randomly where we want it to be. Now, let's say I want to just put a little hint of this on. Then stamp it on there. Doesn't matter if I get the ink all over everything else, okay? All right, now I'm pretty satisfied with that, so I'm going to take the other one. I'm going to ink this one up, and I'm going to go ahead and just randomly stamp. I can use first gen and second gen stamps here if I want to. If you don't know what that means, I'll explain it. So when I stamp something, this is a first generation stamp, nice and crisp. This is a second generation stamp. It's slightly lighter. So this is a first generation and this is a second generation. So I can use first generation stamps here if I want to. I'm going to turn this, put a little bit here, over here, right across the bottom. Maybe bring a little swirl in right there. maybe a little bit of a swirly there. And I'm going to put one here. And let's see. Any place else I think I might need one? No, I think I'm pretty good on this one. I like it, just the way it is. All right. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off. I'm going to take this off very slowly. Now, if you wanted to emboss this, you would emboss it after you stamp each stamp. That's entirely up to you. If you feel the tape still has too much tack, use your heat gun to heat it up as you pull it off, okay? So now I have a front. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to round the corners. So I'm going to round the corners on this. And then I'm going to get my ink dauber. I'm going to put some ink on my dauber. And I'm just going to lightly ink the edge here. All right. So now, let's take a look. And this is how that looks now. Okay, let me bring it up here so you guys can really see. All right, so now I have this blank space in the middle. Now I can stamp in here if I want to, or if I want to, I can cut one of my pieces out. We'll go ahead and I'll just use a trimmer real quick to cut one of these out of here. Okay, let me cut this down just a little bit because I want this kind of the right size for what I want here. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off on both sides. And I think I can take a little bit more off this end. Basically here what I'm trying to do is just make this, there we go, looks good. All right, get rid of these pieces, put the trimmer away. And then the next thing we're going to be doing is, again, we're just going to round some corners. Now I'm going to round these corners smaller because it's a smaller piece. I'm going to round them a little smaller. And I'm going to use the slightly darker colored ink to just go around the edge here real quick. I don't want to use two daubers, so I'll just use the ink pad. Okay. And this is going to go right here in the center. And I'll use a little double-sided tape just because it's easy. I'm going to find the center point. I'm going to go ahead and press that down. Okay, so now the next part is going to be to kind of dress this up a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to use some twine. just going to get a little bit of twine here. I'm going to decide where I want it. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to tie a bow right here. So I'm going to put this underneath, bring this up, and I'm just going to tie a pretty loose bow. I don't want it to be too tight. And then, of course, I'll cut my ends off. And then I'm just going to put some, get this straight where I want it. Kind of like it. Okay. I'm going to use some double-sided tape here to go around the edge. And I'm going to put a little bit here on the back where I want my piece to be. All right. So now I have my front. I'm going to get my card base out. And I'm going to make sure that I have this going in the right direction. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to center it, putting about 1/8 of an inch on every side. Go. And then on the inside, all I'm going to do is take this piece, and again, I'm going to round the corners. I'm going to ink this up, and I'm going to glue it inside, or tape, however I want to do it, and I'm going to put this inside. And that will give me a nice white clean surface to, you know, write my happy birthdays or whatever, you know. Whatever it is. So just a little bit of double-sided tape on this as well. I'm going to open my card up. Again, I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to do about 1/8 of an inch. Press that down, and now I can write my sentiment inside, and this will fit in your standard envelope, and it's not bulky. I can add a little bit here and there if I want to this. It's entirely up to me. And I have this nice white strip across the middle. Fantastic little card. Now, we are going to do this one more time, but the next one we're going to do in a different direction, so I will be right back. Okay, so for this next one, I did want to give it a little bit of a different look, so I did change out the stamps to just some really dramatic swirls, and I was heavier on this. Now, this one we're actually going to do facing up, so, you know, it has to open this way. So let's do the inside first. And I decided that on this one, I wanted this to be a little bit smaller inside the card. So I cut it down. So instead of being 4 inches by 5 1/4, it's now 3 3/4 by 5. So I basically took an extra 1/4 of an inch off. So I'm just going to go ahead and just throw some tape on here to get this in. And then I'm going to place this inside. I'm going to make sure that I keep that 1/4 of an inch. Top, bottom. And I find that if you line up 2 sides, it sort of falls into place all on its own. So now we have that inside, and we're going to work on the outside. Now on this one, I did this one a little different. I used some washi tape on this one. And as you can see, I wrapped it around the back. So all I did on this one is I went ahead and did the same thing. I put my blue tape here, and I left my white piece in the middle. I cut the happy birthday to fit right inside that. I added a little bit of double-sided tape to the back of my washi, and I used a washi tape that color coordinated here. And then I very heavily stamped this, more so than the first one. And again, this is just going to get some tape on the back. You can pretty much just go around the outside of this, cross in the middle. And then we're going to take this and line it up. Now this piece I did keep the regular size, so it's going to have 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And I did offset this a little bit to the side. Now I could add some gems to this if I wanted to. If I wanted to take some twine and I had some twine that matched, I could add some twine in here by simply putting it inside the card and tying a bow here if I want to. Whatever I want to do, I can decorate this any way that I want. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, and then we'll be back and we'll take a look at both of these so you can get an idea of which direction you might want to try this in. I'll be right back. All right, so this is the card that I showed you at the beginning, and we're going to come back to this one in just a second. So this is the card that we did together, and, you know, we stamped this, and we added our little label in here. We tied a little string on it. We cut down our mats. We left a piece inside where we could write a sentiment that we wanted to. Very simple, very easy, very quick. This is the one that I did off camera, and on this one I just wanted to show you that you could actually change this, and you'll see I did a lot more stamping work here. I still left that white piece in the middle. You can see it here on the side, and I just added a little bit of washi tape for this, offset this, and then on the inside of this one I actually made the sentiment area smaller just to give you more of a push so that it had more of a standout on it. And then this is the one that I showed you guys originally. This is the blank card I just stamped straight onto a piece of cardstock that I just folded in half. I added a little bit of ink around the edges, just used a regular stamp in the middle just to stamp a sentiment. I added a couple of little pieces of flat enamel bling, and I mean, that's it. These all fit in a general, you know, regular sized envelope. And those are the cards. Now, I do hope that this inspires you to, you know, maybe make a card for that friend who's not feeling well, or to say thank you to someone that's reached out to you, or even just to tuck it in your happy mail and say, hey, you know, yes, I'm sending you a happy mail, but it's because I thought about you. If you have any questions, or you would like some other suggestions, or maybe you want to bounce some ideas around, feel free to reach out and let me know. Until then, if you haven't done so already and this is your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit that red button for me and subscribe, like me, ring my bell, and share me with all of your friends. Then your friends become my friends, and that is what a community is all about. Till the next time, guys. Bye-bye.